Welcome from the land down under where the engines roar and the cars thunder as Motorsport Australia looks to find their driver for the 2022 FIA Motorsport Games. Just one winner over the event will book their ticket to the real Paul Ricard next month as the Esports Cup looks to focus for the 2022 FIA Motorsport Games. The event itself here today comprises of two races here at the virtual Paul Ricard in the south of France as Australia's best sim racers take to the track. In the commentary booth for the evening, though, it's myself, Lewis McGlade, joined alongside by one of Australia's best and the creator of that great intro. It's, of course, Mr. Kian Butler. Bonjour. Welcome.
Bonjour. Welcome, Lewis. It's going to be a great race today. Thank you for that credit. And it's going to be absolutely splendid down here in France. I cannot wait to see these 19 drivers go at it.
It's a beautiful part of the country. I know obviously a lot of people despise the circuit, and that's fair enough. But it is a beautiful part of the country, the south of France, not a million miles away from the likes of Monaco or whatever, quite close to the city of Marseille as well. And as much as it does have a little bit of controversy around the circuit, some people not liking the amount of runoff, it does normally, in GT racing, especially with the long run on the Mistral Straight, does normally provide some pretty exciting racing.
Yeah, it does. And today we're racing on that, interestingly named Circuit 1AV2, which will be that GT circuit of the back straight, the long straight that you might see in F1 having that chicane in the middle, but that is absent today. And that should give some good opportunities into the back with the curb designs and that long right-hander that will be a tricky one for the front tires of the cars today.
It's just so flowing when you say it like that. Circuit 1A. It's just a lot of words on that one. Fair enough. But like I say, I do actually kind of like racing around this place, to be perfectly honest. When you actually ignore all the runoff. The way these races are going to work, let's talk through that. We've got two races. They're both 30 minutes long, and there is a mandatory pit stop that can be taken at any point through the race with the exception of the final lap. Now, when you take that's going to be quite important. There is a point of taking it too late and too early. You don't really want to take it in the middle part of the race. You only have to put 1 litre of fuel into the tank. But you kind of slipstream is quite important around here, and it can really pull you along to the top guys that might be a little bit faster.
Yeah, a little bit of fuel efficiency never hurt anyone. It means that you can run the car lighter and longer and get yourself in a position that will advantage you later in the race. You want to get those pit stops in a point where you can come out in another slipstream or at least enough clear air where you're not having to battle your way past the back markers.
Now, the driver list that we've got for this, we'll talk through some of the likes of Philippa Boquida, Zach Smith, Matthew Lamb, Andrew O'Hara, who I think was struggling a little bit to boot the game up and get into the race early, which is a shame because he's very, very fast. Going through some of the drivers that we've got, a lot of very strong drivers. Now, we did work, of course, together on the Motorsport Australia versus Motorsports UK broadcast, which we did give a very appropriate title to. Philippa Boquida was the fastest on that, really. It was right up there. Is she the favourite for today?
I think it has to be said with the form that was shown in that Kerfuffle Cup. Going forward, it's going to be the one to be looking after. But there are a couple others in there, Andrew O'Hara, as you said. I wouldn't put it past Hoolihan, the challenge. And there's some new drivers in there that we didn't see in that race or in those set of races. So it's going to be great to see how they can bring the challenge up to the front of the field today.
We'll see them on track in a few moments' time. It's half past the hour where they get out onto the circuit and start their qualifying session. Qualifying around here, how important do you think it is around a circuit like this where you can overtake? I mean, look at how long that straight is coming up towards Senior. Do you think it's super important, or can you kind of afford to qualify 4th or 5th?
Look, to steal a Formula One phrase, points aren't awarded on a Saturday, they're awarded on a Sunday. So, that qualifying position will be important for your track position, but you can make your way up the grid. It is a track that gives you plenty of opportunity to make the passes. If someone doesn't lead the time, all the time you have to leave it in space. If they don't, you can go out, you run out wide, and you end up in a position where you don't get damaged because there is such a large amount of runoff. So it is a very raceable circuit, but qualifying, I think, will still be important if you're looking to challenge at the front of the field today.
Yeah, I think you've really got to be in the top half. If you're qualifying 10th on back, you're putting yourself in a position where it's actually going to be very, very hard to move forward. You kind of want to be qualifying really top 5. If you're in top 5, you're in a hunt for it. And again, the way it's going to work, as well as we can see Philippa Boquida in an R8G car, which I actually didn't know that she'd signed her R8G, so fair enough on that. I do like to see a bit of the R8G action on the track. Gotta stay with how the teams are, with how the drivers are. I kind of wonder if there's going to be a little bit of working between a couple of people that know each other, a bit of friends, whatever, to try and work their way into those positions.
Yeah, potentially. If it was the longest championship, I'd definitely say that could be the case, but it is only going to be these 2 races today, and the winner will get shipped off, Australia's favourite EMU export will go off to France and find its way to compete against the others in Assetto Corsa on this track, so I think it's all to play for. You might expect a little bit of teamwork, but towards the end of the races, they will start pushing each other hard.
Yes, indeed. I will just confirm myself, by the way, because I did get a word in my ear, because I said, oh, Philippa Boquida, I didn't know she was an R8G driver. She has been R8G all year, so that is a good sign, and a bit of a blunder on my end, so sorry about that. And also the Silver Cup champion in the SRO Esports GT Asia Sprint Series. So, I mean, that's pretty handy, because there's some pretty strong drivers even in that field, including Zach Smith is also on this field. We'll see what she does, though, on her first lap, up towards the first couple of corners. You can start to really feel the flow of this circuit. It's a chicane into a chicane, fair enough, but it's not as simple as that. You're trail braking into both the first corner and that first chicane, and then down here into this section. You want to be trail braking all the way through, hook that curb up on the right hand side, and then you want to bring it really tightly over to the left so that you can get the run all the way around here, because once you get on the throttle here with a slight lift at this point, you're flat for a very, very long time. You come out here and onto the Mistral straight, and you're just pinned past this point. Get those gears right. It's a long run.
Yeah, it is. As we go down this back Mistral straight, it's just an open road ahead. It's like you're traveling down the interstate on a long interstate journey between the 2 states. I said state there too many times, so I apologize for that. But finally, you reach your destination. This right-hander here of Curve Descent. Through the right-hander we go. It seems to be mostly flat still, but it's going to be this corner here that you're going to start to see a lot of work happening, a bit of braking, but you want to try and take it through this long right-hander and scrub off as much speed as you can with the friction of the front tires, get that heat generated to get that nice turn in towards the second part of it. To the right-hand side of the corner now, through the left-hander, you want to try and keep it nice and close to the curb, and then open up yourself for this run towards the final set of chicanes as we come through this long curb, this long right-hander towards the Virage de la Tour and the Virage de la Ponte. Through the left-hander we go as we set up for this final corner of the lap, looking to get a good exit to run down the start-finish straight, and waiting to see across the line. It looks like a decent run there, a little bit more to play for. I feel like this was a very safe bank line for Philippa Boquida, but as we cross the line then, it will be a 1:52.9 to set the benchmark for today.
Yeah, the first timed lap of the session. A great lap time from Boquida, and one of our main rivals for the event, Andrew O'Hara, unfortunately still not here. Bit of a shame there, as we see Dan Hunter come across the line in 5th. It was actually really good in the opening portions of the races. It's not all McLarens here, though. Of course, we do have a range of cars, and thankfully none of those are a Ferrari. No disrespect to Ferrari, but we know what Ferraris do around this circuit when they're driven by certain drivers. But that's fine, we won't go into that too much. Russell, though, who's presently on our screen, driving through the final complex. I find that final corner to be irritatingly difficult. It's such a tricky run. You're going through this long left-hander into a braking zone, which the left-hander is always pushing you out to be over on the right, but you need to be back over on the left, which means you've got to sacrifice somewhere a part of a run.
Yeah, your brake balance being a little bit off could send you into a bit of spin in this last corner there. As you can see, a plethora of drivers coming through that left-hander, setting up for the next corner. It's a really big sequence of corners on this track where it's just, one corner flowing into the other one. Like you said, it's a big flowing circuit broken up by that back straight. And this track really does come down to getting yourself in the zone, and I think it's going to be really crucial when you get towards that point in the race where you can kind of break another driver out of the zone by going to the attack. If you can do that, then that should open up opportunities further down the line. Yeah.
And I think playing, as much as it's only 2 half-hour races, playing the long game is actually going to be crucial on a day like this. You kind of need to not attack when it's unnecessary, which is very easy to do around here. you kind of want to stay in the slipstream, but sometimes it kind of lulls you into the idea of going for a move into a corner where you really don't need to. It kind of back off a little bit, drive within yourself, wait for the right time. We can see Zach Smith presently on our screen in third position. It does seem like the McLarens are looking pretty strong because they're now qualified first, second, fourth and fifth as Lamb goes up into fourth. Zach Smith out of the final corner, a few tenths up at the moment, looking to take over second position from Ryan Hoolihan, running up towards the line and losing a little bit of time in the final corner and missing out by 100th of a second. Big shame for Zach Smith.
That is very close there. I mean, Boquida still has that gap out. She's extended out to a 52.8 now, so it's a little bit faster on her end now. But you can see that there is a couple of groups forming. You have that second and third place fight between Hoolihan and Smith. A little bit further back, you seem to have a group forming between Hunter all the way back almost to Giuntini, and we're on board with the second Giuntini. Now, there are two Giuntinis in this race, so I'm assuming that they're related. So that could potentially play a part later in the line team orders, more like family orders. As we come across the line now for Matthew Giuntini, where will he place himself now? It's P9, a 1.5 seconds back, so that would place it around a 154.3.
And a tenth between the two of them. Do you have any siblings?
I am an only child.
I do have a sibling, and if they were ever in sim racing, I think there would be a lot of arguments. So thankfully, that is not a problem. We do see a few of the sibling rivalries in the sim racing world, so we'll see if there's going to be any more between those two. Like I say, back end of the top 10, whilst we see Corey Sweet coming through turn 9. Sinya up towards this, again, very tricky double apex right-hander. Really tricky to find that second apex, really tricky to kind of bring that front left into the temperature window so that you're kind of hooking up the apex quite nicely. And then this corner, which for the life of me, I've done quite a few laps around Paul Ricard. That's kind of the line I take. I've never figured it out. I can never hook up that late apex.
Yeah, it's it's one of those corners you come out, your front tires have been very heavily worked from the previous corner there, and then through the left-hander. There are lines that you can take there a bit wider, carry a bit more speed, so that you carry that right into the following section. Take the tighter apex. There's a bunch of different lines you can take through there. I don't like that corner as much, but the corner just before is one of my favorite corners in motorsport, as Corey Sweet comes to a stop on the start-finish line, and that seems to be his qualifying done then.
Yeah, Pignata gets between the two Giuntinis as well at the back end of the top 10, as we can see Ashlin Reynolds crossing the line. They are going to start a lap. Never mind, I was going to say, where are they going to go? Nope, starting a lap. The timer's ticking down. They'll be able to finish the laps that they're on if they start it before the timer hits 0. So you do get to finish those ones. That's why it's quite important to get back out. But Ryan Hoolihan calling an end to the session. Did improve by 0.02 of a second in that 999 car to more confirmed second position in the race, but not going after pole and being done with the session. Van Vliet as well, also done with the session. Those that are in the pit lane now, anyone that you'll see a P next to the name of, that's their session done. They'll have returned the pit lane and do not have enough time to get back out there.
Yeah, and we're on board with Daniel Hunter then, who's coming into that quintessential right-hander then. And you can see that taking the little bit wider line into the entry, hooking it back up for the second part, which should give him a good chance to run back to the right-hand side of the track and potentially hook up this apex. Let's see how he goes through the left-hander a bit deep, gets that late apex, pretty nice. A little bit away from it, but runs over that curve, maximizes the amount that he can carry out there. Currently P5 for Daniel Hunter in a number 3 McLaren through the left-hander then. We'll see how we go on board then. You can see just how he's working the steering wheel. Nice and smooth is the way to go in a Assetto Corsa. Through the right-hander, the final corner onto the curb, across the line ahead. Where will he come? Will he improve? Will he find a bit more of a gap to Floyd behind? Crosses the line, and that's going to be staying where he is, so did not improve in that lap. Ashlin Reynolds then, P18, has not set a lap time. How's this going to filter in?
Yeah, obviously on a lap at the moment is Ashlin Reynolds, so we'll come through the final corner to finalise the lap time. Most of the lap times being set and sorted already. Boquida into the pit lane, Hoolihan into the pit lane. Reynolds goes up inside the top 10, so good lap time from them at the end of the session there to move up inside that top 10 with an 8th place finish. I mean, leaving it till the last moment, I respect that so much.
Yeah, I mean, not getting a lap in before, you have to wonder, was there a bit more pace? Was that a bit of a safer lap there from Ashlin Reynolds in the number 28? maybe a bit more to play for in the race, but we're on board then with Ben Floyd, who is down that long back Mistral straight through the right-hander. He's about to go in the Aston Martin, currently the second highest placed Aston Martin on the top of the field, being dominated by the McLarens, who we have seen be a good car in the races on Assetto Corsa. As we come through the right-hander, then 65 through the right-hander, through the left-hander, he sets himself up. Where will he filter in? Oh, he's a bit up, bit down. It's looking like a decent lap here, Lewis.
It's maybe a little bit too early on the apex there. It's kind of touch and go as to whether this lap will improve him inside the top 5 at the moment. Hunter under a bit of pressure there. Already done with the lap times, just 200ths from Hunter back to Floyd at the moment. We'll see Ben Floyd through the final corner and out onto the start-finish straight. You can see Giuntini as well in the background about to finish their lap time. Might be coming into the pit lane to practice the pit entry, which would be worth doing. Unfortunately, there is no improvement from Floyd. Does not come into the pit lane. Giuntini stays 10th. Unfortunately, through that session, just Zach Smith ready to finish up in the session. You can see with the last lap time being a 3:46, he was on an out lap, so this is a genuine time lap, trying to get second position over Hoolihan. Is it going to be enough? It's going to be very close indeed. We'll see as he crosses the line. He did improve and somehow did not go up a position. Improved by that tiny margin, but it wasn't enough. That is pure pain.
Yeah, that just shows you the margins at play here towards the front of this race. It's going to be interesting to see the Aston Martin versus McLaren. Will they be quicker on certain parts of the track? Will one be faster in the straights? Will one be better in the corner? It's all to play for, and having two different cars on that set on the grid, going to be great to see going to turn 1, turn 2, turn 3.
Now, before we get into the race itself, let's discuss points. Let's discuss that side of things, how it's going to work. Of course, it is 2 races this evening, and it is one winner that will take to take to the plane, really, and head to the real Paul Ricard next month for the FIA Motorsport Games. So the point, it's 20 for a win, it's 19 for second, 18 for third, and it goes down like that. So if you get 2 wins, you get 40 points. You're already going through. If you get a win and a third, well, you get 38 points. And if you get 2 seconds, then you also get 38 points. 19 plus 19 is 38. There are tie breaks at play as well, which come down to qualifying laps, etc., etc. We can get into the tie break if we deal with that later on, but it is all sorted behind the scenes. So much so that it is unlikely that if there are 3 tie breaks, there are 3 different things. So if one thing's equal, then the next thing has to be equal, and then the next thing. And if all those are equal, then, well, we have to just rerun the event from the very start. We'll try not to do that, though.
Yeah, very confusing set of circumstances there if we do get 2 equal sets of points, but I doubt that will happen today, as we can see our grid here. Then walk us through it, Lewis.
Yeah, Philippa Boquida starting from pole position on the right-hand side, Hoolihan on the left, before we get to Zach Smith and Matthew Lamb. Of course, a tight battle there in the qualifying session. The highest placed Aston Martin on the right-hand side of your shot. Then we get to Lamb, then Hunter and Floyd, who improved late in the session, before we get to Sweet and Weston. Reynolds with a great lap towards the end of that session in a trio of Audis between Weston, Reynolds and Giuntini towards the back end of the top 10. A great lap time from Reynolds, who didn't set a lap throughout the entire session until the very last one. Russell, Pignata, Jake Baldwin starts from 13th, with the other Giuntini starting from 14th. Van Vliet, Reed, Noble and Rose. The 18 car grid, the one missing, unfortunately, is Andrew O'Hara. A bit of a shame on that one. And as you can see, we are in the final corner, which means that, penultimate corner really, which means that we're going to be going racing very, very soon. It's the short formation lap, so it's literally no time to warm up your tyres, no time to get anything into the window. You're through the corner and you're into the race. Done.
Yeah, it's right on that formation lap. There is not that formation lap. There is a roll onto that grid, roll onto the start-finish line, and it's all going to be about that start. It's going to be how well you can manage those tires as you get into it. Where your pit stops play, there is that one mandatory pit stop, so how will that play into the strategy of these guys? Will we see undercuts? Will we see overcuts? Will we see 2 drivers going in together to maintain a slipstream? It'll be interesting to see as this race gets ready to go underway.
From a driving perspective, do you like a short formation lap or a long formation lap?
I feel like there's more control over the way that you like to have your tires and brakes warmed up over a long formation lap. Short formation lap does kind of help you get through those nerves a bit more, because there's more and more time to think about how to get that start that you really want on a longer formation lap. But I think overall, setting up the car, longer formation lap is the way to go.
I prefer a longer one. It lets me settle down into the race, whereas this, you're just thrown right into it. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Philippa Boquida starting from pole position in the first race here as we look for the Motorsport Australia FIA Motorsport Games qualifiers. One winner to go through. Boquida on pole, Hoolihan alongside, Paul Ricard at our mercy. We'll see who's going to win the first race as we get racing here in the south of France. Boquida starting from pole position and leading comfortably down towards the first corner, but actually it's a better launch from Hoolihan on the outside. Got to send it in, got to attack now potentially, but Boquida's got the best line through the corner as they all funnel their way through too wide. Very smart, a little bit of contact there for about 10th position, but after that everyone's been pretty clean.
Yeah, Zach Smith looking to defend his position from Matthew Lamb. We're on board then. Lamb on your cam for the right-hander. We go with the McLaren currently in P4, looking ahead to try and maximize some sort of move on Zach Smith. We're behind. We got too wide there between one of the Audis and one of the Aston Martins. It looks to be Russell and Reynolds going at it. And it's all filtering out now slowly. Still a couple of drivers too wide in the background. That looks to be Pignata and Baldwin going side by side. But yeah, we're on board with Matthew Lamb looking forward. It's a good start there for Boquida, who leads the field down the back straight.
Yeah, this is the big bit, like you say, keeping up in the slipstream is going to be very important through here, but the next section is where the real driving properly comes into it. That's where it's all gets separated. Hunter getting under attack by Floyd, coming up towards this very fast corner 9. It's going to be a big send as Floyd's going to look to the inside. Go, deep breath here. This is going to be a big moment if they don't make this one stick. Hunter way around the outside and way off the circuit. Rejoins just ahead. The big send coming into the corner. No, it is not going to be. Hunter's going to be able to hang on to 5th position, but they're losing time, and Hunter's gone in too deep as well. Of course, his tyres will be a little bit dirty from running out that far wide, and you've got to be careful with doing that too many times.
Yeah, it's one of those really flowing circuits where you have to make sure that you get your corners right, and Daniel Hunter, you can see just running wide there did kind of compromise him a little bit for the following corners, and now he's dropped back a bit from Matthew Lamb, which will cause him to be more and more exposed to the Aston Martin behind number 65. That is Floyd, who is looking forward, and a little bit of side-by-side action just behind as Hunter directly into the pit, so that there will be a couple of drivers undercutting, including the likes of Ryan Hoolihan.
Yeah, Ryan Hoolihan and Hunter and Jake Baldwin into the pit lane. As I said before, there is a mandatory pit stop in this race. Anyone who might look at the top and think, hang on, why is it 26 minutes and 50 seconds, not 27 for you? It's because the mandatory pit stop excludes the final lap of the race. You've got to make it before the final lap of the race, obviously. But just to make sure that all the drivers actually do that properly, because some people do like to try and sneak it in on the last lap, but that does not work. And so, yes, that's to cover that one off. So it's basically every lap you want to pit on, including the end of the first lap, which is why we've seen quite a few in. One person I don't think we'll see into the pit lane anytime soon is Philippa Boquida. I don't think she's going to be coming in anywhere near the pit lane entry for a while. Kind of wait until the end of the race. She's got the speed to pull away from everyone. Why not?
Yeah, why would you? You don't want to end up in a position where you fall out into traffic and then lose lap time, and then potentially those who do stay out, in this instance, for example, could be Zach Smith, could be Matt Lamb. If one of those stay out, then they could overcut and get the win. So, no, Philippa Boquida will most likely be staying out as long as they can in order to make sure that they can maximize their own pace and not get caught up in any sort of, I guess, kerfuffles will be the word to use there.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to turn this one into the Kerfuffle Cup, that is for sure. We're back with Matthew Lamb on the rear end of Smith, a 1.7 second lead for Boquida at the moment. These two squabbling a little bit. Does anyone else in this group bail for the pit lane, or do they stay out? For anyone coming into the pit lane, to remind you as well, those that have come in, the requirement for the pit stop is 1 litre of fuel. You don't have to change tyres, you don't have to fill the tank up. There's no necessary advantage of taking it early or late. You're going to be running on the same tyres most likely. So it's more just for track position. It's more just to spice it up from that side. It's more to kind of, your timing to come in is about clean air above anything else.
Yeah, and the bottom 5 have pitted now. So it's really the top 12 that will be battling it out. I'll say bottom 5, bottom 6, pardon me, as Ashlin Reynolds for the left-hander then in the number 28 is going to be chasing down the Aston Martin. Now, I haven't seen the Audi versus the Aston Martin. It does seem to be that the Aston Martin is quicker in the straights than the McLaren. So I would say that if you were a McLaren stuck behind an Aston Martin, it would almost be worth going for that undercut. That's just me doing my strategy brain. It could be a Red Bull strategy. It could be a Ferrari strategy. And you know how those go.
Yeah, one is actually pretty well, and the other one is definitely not. You decide at home which one we are talking about on that side. From that point of view, though, it's where you've got to understand the simulator itself and a set of course competency only, and each of the cars to know whether you're likely to be able to find your way past and then react immediately. A lot of these, they're not going to have race engineers for a race like this. They don't need one. It's just you reacting when you need to react. Sweet going a little bit faster on the straight, though, looking to the outside of Floyd. Once again, Floyd under a lot of pressure here, heading through the end of the backstretch at T9. I mean, the more you come under pressure into a corner like that, there is no slipstream ahead for Floyd to take advantage of. And so everyone's going to be piling on the pressure, heading through that incredibly fast right-hander.
Yeah, and every little attack will chip away a tiny bit between that gap between Floyd and Lamb. So Floyd will be trying to maximize a bit of pace here to give himself the gap that he needs to not fall behind too far and maybe get a little bit of that slipstream again. But Corey will be looking for that sweet, sweet opportunity to try and make his way past, pun intended.
Nice, I appreciate that. We'll see if there is going to be that move anytime soon. If not, again, I'd be questioning maybe enter the pit lane. I feel like we've got two very different mindsets here. It's the pit very, very early, and I feel for everyone else it might be a pit very, very late. And I don't see there being too much middle ground unless you're frustrated by the cars ahead, which maybe Corey Sweet is in that boat right now of maybe getting frustrated a little bit. Certainly with Ashlin Reynolds, I would be straight in the pit lane because I agree with you. The Aston Martin looks pretty fast in a straight line. The Audi R8 less so. So take advantage of the clean air that's just sat there by one trip into the pit lane. I would be all over that right now.
Yeah, the issue though being, of course, that you do have that pack leading, led by Ryan Hoolihan further back that have pitted already, and you know, it's going to come down to where you filter out in that. It's a gamble now for those who didn't pit early because they would have known exactly where they came out. That pace of the pack in the back, they could filter out in the middle in a battle that's even more hard to find a way past, a battle that's even worse for their pace. So it's a risk either way now. I feel like the play might be to stay long, but it comes down to drivers. As further back, we have Aaron Giuntini in the Audi looking up the inside of Noble now through the right-hander then. Will it work through the inside? There's a little almost contact there. Noble holds his line, and they were inches apart there, centimeters, millimeters apart, nanometers apart even. And it was such a tight margin there, but the two drivers keeping it clean for the right-hander and Noble in the McLaren holding on to position.
Yeah, that was scary. Is about the only way that I'll put it. That was very, very close indeed, but still managed to keep it on the circuit. That's why a lot of these drivers are very best in Australia. Why are you not on the grid? Yeah, come on, you're pretty pacey in a car.
I don't have a passport.
That's two very good. That's two very good reasons.
I'm not a citizen. That's my third reason.
Oh, I see. Nice. Really hitting him out of the park there. A 5-second penalty has been dished out to Corey Sweet from race control. That will be painful. That'll be served on the pit stop, and that'll be a painful 5-second hold as well because they're pretty tight behind. We're riding on board with Ashlin Reynolds, who's directly behind Corey Sweet. There's another car directly behind this of Russell. Giuntini and Pignata not too far behind. That 5-second penalty. Oh, as there's Reynolds into the back of Corey Sweet. Never mind. The 5-second penalty coming as courtesy of contact between Sweet and Weston on the first lap going through the first section of corners.
Yeah, looking like a bit of a bittersweet here race here for the number 32 through the left-hander, and a little bit of a touch there from Ashlin Reynolds, that Audi trying to find the way past the number 32, who is falling further behind the number 65. So really now, for Ashlin Reynolds, I think you do want to take that pit stop early because you know the car ahead is going to have a 5-second penalty. You know that there's going to be an easy overcut there for you there. How does this play out, though, for everyone in the line?
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, as here we go once again. Giuntini and Noble up towards that extremely fast right-hander. We saw this once before. We'll see it once again. And this time we go sideways properly. See ya, says Noble. Giuntini moves up the position. I can guarantee race control will take a look at that one.
Yeah, one time is lucky, 2 time is skill, but if it doesn't work a second time, then it causes bad thrills. That wasn't great there for the McLaren, as, you know, that turn in there, thought maybe again I'd be able to chop off that nose, but, you know, did not work out that time, and that was a spin there caused by Giuntini, but they were side by side, leaves to the stewards. but that one did have a bit of a racing vibe about it.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. As into the pit lane comes one of the Audi R8s of Ashlin Reynolds. I said she's coming to the pit lane, so she does with 10 minutes done in the race. Ashlin Reynolds into the pit lane. They're going to try and jump the train in a sense. And to be fair, with the pace at hand, I can see that happening. When you're in a train like this, you do get held up quite a bit. But then maybe the slipstream's playing its part in all of that as well, and they'll have to come into the pit lane and try and find another way. Try and use your own speed to try and group it. There's quite a lot of space of those that have pitted. They're separated by quite a bit. It's only Reid and Van Vliet that are actually pretty tight in the circuit. Everyone else separated by about 4 or 5 seconds. As a oh my goodness me, a drive-through penalty has been dished out to Reynolds. I think that might be in game.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happened there. It was speeding the pit lane potentially, but yeah, we can confirm that was speeding the pit. So Ashlin Reynolds going for the undercut did not work out there. Corey Sweet now is going to be trying to find their way forward. They probably won't have that information, or they might do. If they had the information that there's a drive-through for Ashlin Reynolds, that works out well for Corey Sweet. If they don't, they're going to be getting more and more aggressive on Ben Floyd ahead, thinking, okay, we have drivers that can potentially undercut. I only have a 1.6 second gap behind. I need to find my way past this car and start building that gap. So we'll see how Corey Sweet reacts to the happenings around him. We're on board now with James Pierre-Reid, who behind has Van Vliet, only 4 tenths, and this is that group that have pit further back. So I'm not sure if you can see, yeah, just up the field you can see, not the next car, that's Jake Baldwin, but the car after is where Ashlin Reynolds is filtered out. But of course, that drive-through penalty will need to be served.
Which, to be fair, to get a drive-through penalty for speed in the pit lane, that is actually genuinely rare. And I mean that because normally it's a stop-go 30. We'll see if Van Vliet's going to get through here to the outside at the end of this, at the end of the Mistral straight. Going to send it all the way around the outside. Space given between the two of them. They're still side by side up towards the double apex corner after that. And I think this has got to be a big send from that Lamborghini. It was worth a go, but unfortunately just did not have the speed off of scene and so did not gain the position. I mean, it was close though, I'll give it that.
Yeah, Van Vliet gave a lot of space there to James Pierre-Reid, and that did give him the opportunity to just kind of, you know, get the line that he wanted through there. I feel like if you attack in some of these corners, you need to really compromise, and then, you know, you can let them ahead for the first part of the corner, but on those large corners like that one, you can then get that switchback, get that undercut, do whatever you need to do to get back past. But now we're in a position where Pierre-Reid will have Van Vliet behind for another lap, and we will likely see another attempt of a move on that back straight.
Reynolds into the pit lane, so they'll be really focusing on the next race to see if they can fire their way back up the order somehow. But you've got to say, any aspirations of potentially even moving through are definitely gone with that mistake. A bit of a shame as we go back to Floyd versus Sweet. We've seen this one a few times coming down into scene and down towards Busset, but the positions still holding out. 4th place for Floyd, 5th place for Sweet, and of course that 5-second time penalty looming over the head of Sweet. But now 2.2 seconds back to Russell, 2.7 seconds back to Pignata. It's a 50-50 split. 9 have pitted, 9 have not. Yeah,
it's that point in the race now. We're halfway through, so 50-50 makes sense. But those drivers at the front, you know, they're only taking a little bit of fuel, so it's not really going to compromise their pace. In fact, I'd almost say the drivers at the front would have slightly better pace because they're on the same age tires, but they have less fuel comparatively because they do need to make that splash and dash. So a little bit of extra pace potentially in hand. It's going to come down to how they feel that their pace is being compromised by the drivers around and by the people around, and you know, if there's, maybe they need a mental reset. You know, I feel like if you're Corey Sweet at this point, you will just want to serve that 5 seconds and find your way back up the grid.
Got to say, for these two between Floyd and Sweet, they can't fight too hard over 4th and 5th because Russell's closing in only 1.8 seconds. I said it was over 2 seconds. It's now back below that. So the other Aston Martin looking to join the train as we head back to Van Vliet against Reid. You can see Giuntini as well. The two of them have both pitted now, and Giuntini in 14th position, just 1.5 seconds clear, but he's ahead, crucially, of this battle. The more they fight, the less they're likely to be a part of that fight a bit further down the road later on, as we look back up halfway through the race with our race leader 4.5 seconds clear of Zach Smith. I got to say for Ryan Hoolihan, who got side by side going through the first corner, that would have been the most important point. If you're around the outside of the first corner, you kind of have to send it. I'd say her race start was not, for Boquida was not maybe that great comparatively to where I was expecting it, and they were under pressure into the first corner, and so I kind of wonder if in the next race, if that happens again, maybe we might see a switch.
Yeah, if you're Hoolihan, you're kind of fighting for second position here, 4 tenths down on the last lap compared to Boquida. Boquida has been having a really boring race here, as she's started in that pole position, stayed in that first place, has the fastest lap, currently hasn't had any challenges. We might see something a bit different in that pit stop phase, but so far, it's really Hoolihan who can try and bring the challenge, but a bit more pace needs to be found in hand in order to really close that gap before she pits.
Yeah, we'll wait and see if they're going to stay out for longer and longer and longer and try and extend it all the way to the end of the pit sequence. From second position in the race, Zach Smith, like I say, into the pit lane. I believe will come up behind Hoolihan, but ahead of Hunter. Should come out in that battle, but I don't think will be a million miles behind Hoolihan. Has done quite well. Noble also into the pit lane, as we see Van Vliet, of course, on the rear end of Reed, on the rear end of Giuntini. They are closing in on Aaron Giuntini as well, so I think there might be a bit of a three-way fight here a bit further down the order. They've still got a few positions to gain though from those that have yet to come into the pit lane, from some of those towards the back end of those that are yet to stop, as Zach Smith is going to leave the pit lane now, but where in comparatively to the fight for what could be second in this race.
Zach Smith has had a clean race, has had relatively free air. You can see there in the pit lane is Zach Smith. So Zach Smith will filter out fairly behind Van Vliet, it seems. And maybe a bit of work to do then.
That seems very wrong.
Was that... No, there was an Aston Martin in the pit lane. Was that McLaren?
No, I think you were right. I think that was Smith. But that seems very wrong. I think they've taken tyres.
Ooh.
I think they've done something... I think they've... Like, you are absolutely right to have pointed that out. We were expecting Smith on the pace, just 4 seconds behind Boquida, to have come out in the fight between Hoolihan and Hunter, and yet is now down the back end. It's 15. That is a longer stop. That is more fuel than everyone else, potentially. That is also more tyres, potentially. I don't know what it was, but they were stationary for way longer than everyone else, and so for Zach Smith, well, he's got a lot of work ahead of him to get back up into any spot, as Giuntini receives a 15-second time penalty. Well, I don't even need to see the steward's report to understand what that was for. Of course, it was contact coming down into the corner we've just gone through there from Van Vliet.
Yeah, that's really interesting to see Zach Smith come out where he did. It almost begs the question, did he underfuel for the first stint and then think that it would be better to take more fuel and actually, try and maximize that first stint? I think tyres have to be in the play there as well, but 10 seconds now behind Van Vliet. He's got Wesson behind. Wesson could try and upset Zach Smith a little bit, and if that does happen, then, well, they're kind of stuck there. But Luke Rose now in the pits, so we're seeing that start of the finals at the pit stops here. Matthew Pignata also in the pits. Luke Rose starts to filter out. Where will he come out? As Van Vliet now passes the pit entry, still behind Pierre Reed, and looking ahead, where are they filtered out? And there is Luke Rose. So Luke Rose will come out ahead then of Zach Smith. So has jumped Zach Smith in the pit stop phase, and that's another obstacle then for Zach Smith to try and overcome.
There is the confirmation of the penalty for Giuntini, obviously picking that one up for contact between themselves and Noble going through the fast right-hander of Scene. So that one was about as predictable as it gets, with it being applied post-pit stop. It will be added post-race, so 15 seconds added to their time after the race. It will drop them down the order, potentially to last spot on the road. Still 11 minutes and 10 seconds left to go in this race. Still a few laps for them to be able to make their pit stops. And I don't know when Boquida, Lamb, Floyd, Sweet and Russell will be into the pit lane. Obviously, you can see the orange box with the number 1 in it signifies that they have not been into the pit lane yet. Everyone with a green box, they have already completed their mandatory pit stop requirements. And it will be a copy and paste of that for the next race. As Van Vliet's going for a bit of a send. He went over the inside curb, and you do not want to do that. It unsettled the rear end of the car. That'll be an embarrassing moment. Hasn't lost any positions. Maybe just a bit of rosy cheeks.
There's one question when he come out of a slide like that: did I save it or didn't save it? And in that case, I think he saved it. Through the left hand we go with Pierre Reid, and up ahead there's a bit of a battle brewing. I saw it a little bit up ahead, but we're going to go to this here. This is that incident that gave the 15-second penalty for Giuntini. You can see the McLaren and the Audi side by side, and as we enter this corner at the end of the Mistral Straight, through the right hand, you can see opens up the corner a little bit there, does the McLaren, and still the nose a little bit side by side, but it seemed a little bit of a send there from the Audi, and he just ran into him there. Yeah,
Giuntini, there is a kind of thing of like, that is not alongside enough. Like, really is not alongside enough. As soon as they pulled out of the slipstream, started to close up and then dropped back a little bit and really just wasn't alongside enough to demand any sort of track position. And like I say, just understeered a little bit in the turn-in of the corner. It's what it is. It happens. Russell's been into the pit lane as well. So we now have just 4 drivers left out there waiting to make their stop, including this driver here, Corey Sweet, with a 5-second time penalty after contact on the first lap of the race, still behind Floyd. Now, the 5-second time penalty is going to be applied during the pit stop, counter, of course, to how Aaron Giuntini's car time is going to be added. That's going to be done post-race. Sweet has the time to do it during the race. As we head back to Jake Baldwin, Pignata, after that slide, has he dropped back behind Jake Baldwin? Was he ahead?
Oh, that's Pignata moving on now for the right-hander.
No, I'm with you.
It was Van Vliet who slid, but they're going to go too wide, it looks like. But Pignata thinks better of it, it seems. For the right-hander, then slots back in behind Russell there. But yeah, this is the battle that has been heating up a little bit. Very behind Aaron Giuntini, looking for another opportunity up the inside. He thinks about it there on Pierre Reid. Through the right-hander. Slots back in behind for the 333 there. So maybe learning a little bit of a lesson there. 15 seconds. That's pretty much going to place him at the back of the field right now after the penalty's been applied. So you have to think, if you're Giuntini, you have to, send it a little bit here and try and build a bit of a gap to the cars behind. And if there's somebody slowing you down, you need to find your way past.
Yeah, apologies for mixing up those Lamborghinis of Pignata and Van Vliet, getting everyone scared at home. Yeah, Van Vliet was the one that went for the slide. I was so shocked that he'd been able to get those tyres back up and running again and straight back onto the rear of the car, but obviously that's because that wasn't the case. Pignata putting on the pressure for Jake Baldwin once again. That Lamborghini, the V10 Scream, is looking to charge past a position right now. It's looking plenty fast enough in a straight line, especially if there's going to be a mistake like that from Jake Baldwin, a little bit too wide in the exit of the second corner. If you make a mistake in this section, you are opened up for a move into Senan. Also closing in on all this is Giuntini, but I do fear the straight line speed of that Audi R8 is not enough to drag them alongside the might of the Aston Martin.
Yeah, it's it's been potentially finding a move here the last couple of laps. We'll see if he's a little bit closer there. I'm going to take the opportunity before the positions change here. You have James Reid in a bit of a read on Rye with the Giuntini brothers either side. A bit of a sandwich there between the two. I wanted to take the opportunity before the sandwich disappeared.
Fair enough.
But you have Corey Sweet there for the right-hander, just behind Ben Floyd. Floyd dumps into the pits now. So that will be Corey Sweet trying to open up the throttle, get his foot to the floor and find as much pace as he can to try and make that 5-second work. Has to be an overcut now. Has to overcut as many people as he can. But we're coming towards these final stages of the race. 5 minutes and 30 seconds remaining on the pit window.
You do love a good talk of a sandwich. I've seen your list of just truly awful puns, which we'll see. Obviously, with the Reid Giuntini, it's a Reid sandwich with Giuntini bread. Very tasty indeed, and a fairly exciting battle. But one of them is trying to break away from that sandwich, and Giuntini going on the attack for this fight. At the moment, 8th and 9th. It's going to be closing in. They're going to have a couple of extra ones added to this as Floyd will come out of the pit lane, I think, in around 6th position.
Yeah, we'll see where it filters out. Do we have... I don't see him in the pits there. He must be in his box.
I think ahead of this.
Ahead of this already. So then Is that so Ryan Hoolihan has come out ahead of Floyd. We expected that. Hunter, where will he come through on the timing screen? Yeah, I think he'll be just ahead of this battle, if not a little bit further forward. Like you said, probably 6th position. Yep, there you go. 1.4 seconds behind Hunter. So he can challenge now for that top 5 position. Jake Baldwin will be trying to consolidate this P8 that he has currently. 5 minutes remaining. This is where you start getting your elbows out. Maybe if you're in a little bit earlier in the race, you're willing to let a position by if you think it'll help your overall race time. But this late in the race, you're going to get your elbows out. You're going to say, no, okay, at this point, I want this position. This is mine. I'm not letting you get that extra point.
Now, with where Floyd came out, that does actually tell us something very important, is that when Corey Sweet comes into the pit lane, should just be ahead of this battle that we're looking at here, but not by much. Could be out side by side with it, whilst they're side by side anyway. Pignata trying to get around the outside of Jake Baldwin, going through that fast right-hander it's seen once again, down towards Busset, not alongside. Lamb is into the pit lane, so we've only got 2 drivers left out on circuit that are yet to make their stop. The harder they're fighting, they are guaranteeing that Corey Sweet's going to come out ahead of this. They keep fighting this hard. The defensive move being put on by Jake Baldwin, the wide entry from Pignata, but as he gets onto the power, there is a big rear wing of that Aston Martin directly ahead. Nothing they can do.
Yeah, look at that. So close there for the left-hander with Matthew Pignata. He's got the Aston Martin dead ahead. Can he get a better run? He takes a wider entry that could give him a slightly better on traction there. As you can see, he slots him behind down the start-finish straight. He's going to be looking straight ahead, and Baldwin's going to be looking in his mirrors then. Will he think about the move into turn 1? It could potentially happen here. He looks towards the inside. Will there be a lunge? There's a cone on the track, and no, it doesn't look like he's going to go for it this time. Slots back in behind Baldwin. And 4 minutes ago, rather, a lap taking about what? That 1 minute 30-ish, I think I remember. Sorry, I lied. 1 minute 50, 1 minute 60. So about 2 laps, maybe just a little bit more remaining. It's going to be interesting to see, can Pignata find that point to go past? We're on board with the rear wing then of Jake Baldwin, who you can see now, Giuntini in the number 2 has slotted right into that battle.
Yeah, I believe this will end up being the penultimate lap of the race because, of course, Boquida and Sweet both have to make a pit stop. It might be 3. Really, Boquida and Sweet will be pitting this lap anyway. There's just no need to risk it past that point. I think they might be pretty tight to move the way through. Boquida does come into the pit lane. Sweet into the pit lane as well, I believe, as we'll see this side by side once again. Baldwin defending, Hunter is there looking to the outside, Pignata there looking to the outside as they head through that fast corner again, and you're just going to keep trying it. That Lamborghini of Pignata is going to keep giving it a go around the outside at scene and is still not able to do it. That's going to be very interesting indeed. We'll say, by the way, the average time in the pit lane is 43 seconds, and the gap between Boquida and Hoolihan was around that time as well. So it's going to be quite tight between Boquida and Hoolihan, but it is going to go the way of Philippa Boquida.
Yeah, you can see there Ryan Hoolihan down that straight, maybe able to find a little bit of pace and pocket here in these last couple of laps with the tyres switched on compared to Boquida. But you can see just the distance there. That was Boquida, that little speck off on the horizon going down towards turn 3. So, yeah, looks like this one is in the bag for Boquida. Corey Sweet, we yet to see where he filters out in terms of the timing screens there. I'd suggest he came out probably just ahead of this battle.
Yeah, should be.
As, there we go, yeah, P5 currently for Corey Sweet. And just behind Corey then, it's not Matthew Lamb, it's got to be Floyd, I would say. Yep, Ben Floyd is just ahead, rather, sorry, so that's got to be Paul Russell behind. So it's an Aston Martin 4, 5, 6, and the 3 of these will be evenly matched. So we'll see if any of them can make a bit of something happen. But just behind Corey Sweet with Paul Russell, he's going to have to switch on tyres. Will he be able to find a little bit of pace down the straight? We can see there, oh, they're sticking just about the same. Sweet will have that slipstream from Floyd ahead anyway, so maybe not going to be the opportunity here for Russell to make something happen.
Could you imagine how irritated Floyd is right now? Driving around thinking, when he came into the pit lane, Sweet has a 5-second penalty. So it's like, I'm guaranteed to hang on to this spot. You've come in a little bit early. Sweet then comes into the pit lane and comes out directly behind you, around a second behind. That must be so frustrating because you thought you'd have broken that gap. You'd have ripped out the gap. Sweet has done such a good job over the end of that stint to have essentially nullified that 5-second penalty to get back into the fight. Philippa Boquida comes out of the final corner to start the final lap of this race. I thought it might have been a bit closer between Boquida and Hoolihan. It is not even remotely close. Philippa Boquida in a world of their own right now and gets to enjoy a final lap in the first race here in the Motorsport Australia FIA Motorsport Games qualifiers for 2022. Again, reminder, just one winner from this event will go to the real Paul Ricard next month. And at the moment, it'd be hard pressed to say anyone but Boquida, but we know how these races go. And with race 2 on the horizon, they'll have to qualify again. They'll have to go through turn 1 again. They'll have to risk it again.
There's one common phrase that you hear about Australians when it comes to the international community. You know, if you're an American sim racer, if you're a British or a French or European sim racer, you'll connect to a lobby with an Australian and say, "Oh my God, what is that ping?" Australian internet is notorious, so that could be the undoing of Boquida if something were to happen in that second round. Of course, Hoolihan has put up the best fight he can. 6.8 seconds or so is the gap between the top two, but it's just 1 point different. So if they come into that final round, 1 point different, which of course they will do if this is the final lap, which it seems to be, then it's all to play for Hoolihan if he can find his way forward. And Matthew Pignata, looking to find his way forward now, goes again for his favorite move around the outside on Jake Baldwin through the right-hander. He is ahead a bit more this time though, so he can potentially find it. Will he find his way all the way around the outside? And it looks like Jake Baldwin's still there. Oh, he hangs it around there, and he's got it. That could open the door there, but poor Giuntini to find something to happen on Jake Baldwin as well. And when he closes that door, that looks a great move there for Matthew Pignata, as we see Philippa Boquida crossing the line to take the victory in the first round then of this FIA Motorsport Invitational Qualifier. And further back, Baldwin, there's been contact. There's contact!
Oh.
There's contact! And that is Matthew Pignata. Jake Baldwin has spun further back. And they've come together then, the three of them. Giuntini slots in behind Pignata. It's all come together. It's all come apart then for these drivers. Jake Baldwin's doing a brilliant job defending. Matthew Pignata found his way past on the last lap. And that just sent Baldwin into a spin. And that has to be gut-wrenching for Jake Baldwin there on the last lap.
Yeah, and it will be investigated as well post-race, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. It's very tight across the line between Floyd, Sweet and Russell as well for 4th position. A pretty dramatic end to that race. Of course, the 15-second time penalty going to Aaron Giuntini will be added post-race, as well as a drive-through for Noble. We'll see our way through this entire fight again and see how close it really got. Of course, the look to the outside from Pignata on Jake Baldwin, it was a super move, and you're absolutely right. Matthew Giuntini was trying to find his way through. I thought him backing off and then trying to attack scene late would have almost opened up the opportunity, but as they come through Bousset, the next corner opens up so much, and it's really inviting for a big dive. I think that's exactly what happened as they were closing in. There's the send from Baldwin. Pignata out wide, and Baldwin was never making that corner. That is a slam dunk penalty for me for Baldwin. Was never making that corner, not in a million years.
But it made it for exciting racing. That was a come together of the final lap there. It all culminated in that last send from Matthew Pignata. Saw him think, had to go there, had to happen that time, but we saw the race winner there, Philippa Boquida, just have a controlling command over that race there. And
it's between the races. Let's catch up with Philippa Boquida, who's done such an impressive job during that race. Philippa, what a drive. I mean, it was a little bit dicey into the first corner, getting a little bit of a move potentially around the outside from Ryan Hoolihan, but you were just in a planet of your own.
Yeah, it was all right. I wasn't too worried about Hooli. I mean, he's been my teammate in a bunch of other series for quite a while, so not too nervous when it comes to him, so it was all right.
Now, do you feel like there is pressure on, pressure off? Of course, you're now leading the points. Got to do that again in the second race. How were you approaching this race? Is it in the same way that you approached race one, or is it kind of a bit calmer, maybe a bit more nervous, perhaps?
Just trying not to think about it. Just go into it and just do what I can, max out the pace. I do need to think about the rear tyres a little bit. They were getting a bit messy at the end there, but otherwise, yeah, just not much else.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm probably not the best person to talk to when it comes to not thinking about it. Sorry about that one. One final question, Paul Ricard, yay or nay? Do you like it? It's quite. It seems quite fun out there.
I really like it.
Good. Well, we'll let you get back to racing, qualifying for starters. Thank you for joining us, and maybe we're catching up with you a little bit later on this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Philippa Boquida put on a great performance in that race. Has to do it again though, and as much as they don't want to think about the pressure on the shoulders, I think there is a little bit of pressure out there. I mean, they understand the risk, right? We all understand the risk. Coming down to that first corner on the first lap, there's 18 cars all trying to occupy one bit of the track. It is a nervy environment. Thankfully, having a little bit of history with the likes of Ryan Hoolihan and that lot does kind of aid things a little bit, but it's still a risky moment.
Yeah, it's turn one's going to be that opportunity for a driver a bit further back to make a send and make a statement early in the race. But of course, heading into the second round, it's qualifying again, but it will be the same track. It'll be the same drivers, so it'd be a pretty similar result, I'd say. But there were really close margins in some places on that first set of qualifying, so it'll be interesting to see how that progresses. Of course, the time will progress forward a little bit. It'll be about 4 hours in-game time further, so the track may have rubbed in a little bit. Temperatures will be a bit different. It'll be great to see how the second qualifying session plays on.
Yeah, as much as you'd say it would be a slam dunk copy paste of what we've just seen, 9 times out of 10 with these events, that is not the case. We'll be heading into qualifying in a couple of minutes' time. Now, based on that race, we discussed before it as to whether track position was going to be 100% important, etc., etc. I think the most important thing is when you take that pit stop. That is the defining moment. And I'm still not necessarily sold on whether you serve it early or late, but it's what was the big decider of battles throughout that race.
I think it's not so much a fact of whether you take it early or late. It's really a tool in your arsenal in terms of battling the other drivers on track. So if you're to back, side to side with another driver constantly, you're obviously losing pace. We saw Corey Sweet pulled 5 seconds out of his pocket the moment that Ben Floyd pitted ahead. He had the 5-second penalty. He ended up right back on the tail of Floyd in that final lap. So, I'm surprised he didn't use that weapon that we talk about, that pit stop, to find a bit of track position and find his way forward. The strategy around the pit stops really does come down to figuring out, am I gaining or losing time by being behind the driver ahead, and what do I want to do about it?
And I think the important thing is that you can't come into it with a game plan, right? And that's really difficult. You can't just go, oh, well, I'm going to pit on this lap, I'm going to pit on that lap, you have to react in the race. Now, I will say with how it was, with it being roughly 40 odd seconds lost during the pit lane, even if you were Philippa Boquida and you pitted on lap 1, likelihood is you're still not going to catch the rear end of that train. So you can afford to pit early and not come out in a train. You can almost guarantee that you're probably not going to come out in a group of people. So you do have that to play with as well. But it's not easy. I think it's kind of, you have to go very much one way or very much the other. Like I say, you either got to pit on lap 1 and get way out of it as everyone's trying to slow down and whatever, or you pit quite late. Like, you kind of get into the rhythm of the race. You pit 5 minutes to go, maybe 10 minutes to go at the earliest in that vein.
Yeah, and I think the crucial point is also to make sure that you waste as little time as you can in the pits. We saw Zach Smith was having a pretty good race towards the front, but then I presume he took less fuel at the start in order to find his way forward a little bit, and then had to refuel in the pit stop. So that was a lot of time lost for him there. We'll see how he recovers in the second race here. But we have Hoolihan here at the start of qualifying. I believe this is out lap, and we will see how the qualifying forms up. I'm excited, Lewis.
Yeah, we can see on our screen there was a post-race penalty to Jake Baldwin. So it was a slam dunk. A 5-second time penalty post-race to Jake Baldwin for the previous race. Of course, that's not going to affect this race. That is for the previous one. And so that one will now be sorted. I think that was expected. It was always going to happen. just because it was a pretty abrupt send late on the race from Jake Baldwin. It drops him just the single position from 12th to 13th spot. So essentially in this race, in the standings, only costs 1 point. Remember, every single position is just 1 point between. You win the race, you get 20, then 19 for second, 18 for third, and so on.
It's a very cutthroat point system, you know. In other categories, you'll see point systems that reward the top 3, top 5 with a higher differential of points between the drivers behind. But in this one here, you know, a single mistake, you find yourself a couple of positions down. A lot of points. It's not as many points as you may think in other categories, but how do I phrase this? It's a lot of points that you lose compared to the amount of points that you can gain compared to other drivers.
That is a way of putting it. Yes, I will say no comment. I will say when it comes to the point structure, like I say, it is quite harsh. If you're Boquida and you win this, you've won the first race, and then you get knocked off and you finish third. You respond to third. Now in quite a lot of championships, that's a pretty good result. But with the way the point structure works, I mean, Hoolihan with a second and a second would then be on the same points. In most places where you've got that larger reward for the victory, that's not necessarily the case. But that's where each point structure has its time and its place. And I think for this kind of event, having just 1 point between each position is the better way of doing it. I think it's the right way of doing a qualifier like this, because it rewards consistency above all.
That was a much more eloquent way of putting it, Lewis, and I thank you for clearing that up. That was a much better way of putting it, as we're on board with Ryan Hoolihan here on a flying lap, I believe, for the right-hander, then coming into the final sector, or in the final sector for the left-hander. This will be the benchmark for the drivers around. Only 6 minutes 30 seconds remaining in qualifying. So on board then with your P2 seater, Team RSP2. To the right-hander, then the car 999, that McLaren in that. I quite like the livery, actually. I think it's just stock livery, but I like it. For the left-hander we go, setting up for that final corner. Where will Ryan Hoolihan come across the line? It will be provisional pole, because he'll be the first driver to cross the line, but what will the time be? That time, as he crosses the line, will be a 1:53.8. So that's a little bit slower than what we've seen
Not
before.
quick.
Yeah.
There are 2 hours between each in-game session, so this is later on in the evening. So maybe the track temperature's a bit warmer. I don't know. It should be a little bit cooler. Anyway, it's their own. That's not great from Hoolihan to have done a 53. If you want a pole, we're really expecting a 52. Instantly behind Zach Smith, Ben Floyd will cross the line, 4th position. And they're all about to get detonated, because I'm pretty sure Philippa Boquida is not a million miles behind this to set a lap time. 53.7 being the provisional pole time at the moment.
Yeah, on board with Mitchell Wesson for the Steeson team with kind of number 21. Of course, not really teams, it's just the name of the car that decided to enter today. For the right-hander, number 21, where will he come across the line? Mitchell Weston in that Audi. How will he represent that Audi today? Comes across the line, and it is P5. That's a good result for Weston there. 4 temps back on Zachary Smith. Philippa Boquida then, this is the driver that we've been waiting to see, and down that back straight. Lewis, what do you reckon the time's going to be?
I don't know. It's got to be in the 52 somewhere, surely. I mean, based on what we've seen in the previous. But hey, a low 53 would do absolutely fine as we head down towards the Mistral corner, to the end of the Mistral straight, of course, as we'll see Boquida roll through. Looking very smooth. I think that's the important thing, is that when you compare... Oh, goodness, that was close to the track limits. When you compare Boquida to a lot of other drivers, very, very smooth, and smooth is fast. That's the important thing to kind of to note there, is that smooth is fast. Watch through this corner, out a little bit wide, hooks it in late, extends the braking zone, just misses the apex ever so slightly, but holds quite a nice line. You're kind of taking a diagonal line into that corner. It's so difficult. Through the final one, or penultimate corner, up through that left-hander, looks for the late apex to hook it over to the left, back over to the right, through that very, very tight final corner onto the start-finish straight, and it was a 53.2 from Ryan Hoolihan on the second lap. That's a very impressive lap time but it's not impressive enough. A 52.9 from Boquida.
There's a little known TV show. I'm not sure if you heard it. It's called it's not on the air anymore. Top Gear.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Yeah, no. There was a one of the presenters, Jeremy Clarkson. They have a segment where they get some random famous people in the car. He always says the smoother ones are always boring to watch, but they're always the quickest. And I think Boquida put that into practice there perfectly. A 59.2 is the first time to set in the 52s, 2 tenths ahead of her closest competitor, Ryan Hoolihan, and, well, sets the benchmark for everyone else to try and go chase.
Yeah, and that is quite a benchmark. I mean, considering there was what was the difference between pole and second in the previous one? I think it was something close to 7 tenths, if I remember correctly. So this time we're looking a bit closer, but I will say Hoolihan's fastest, or the fast lap there came on the second lap, and I wonder if the same will go the way of Boquida as well. Matthew Lamb heading through that incredible right-hander. That, though, might have been out a little bit too wide, you'd have to say, destroying those sort of runoff. They're not bollards. They're I don't even know what you classify them as, but basically going too far wide.
I think they're like polyester boards or something like that. Not polyester. I don't know. Foam board. Yeah, whatever you want to go for. You know, they're boards. They're there. You don't run them over them. You might invalidate your lap. That might have happened here for Matthew Lamb. He's currently P3, 6 tenths behind Boquida and 2 tenths ahead of Zachary Smith. It is a close battle for 3rd to 5th. 4 tenths separates, but we've seen these drivers have been able to put out a bit of lap time compared to each other. Where does Matthew Lamb cross the line? Is it going to be a valid lap? And it doesn't look like it's an improvement either way. So the last lap was a little bit quicker, but it did seem to get invalidated there.
Yeah, indeed. I kind of would have expected that one as Boquida sets a fast lap time. I did expect that second lap time to be faster, and it was a 52.777 to pull 4 tenths clear on that pole position, provisional pole position at the moment. Hoolihan, Lamb behind the second. It seems like the second lap time is the faster one as the slightly cooler conditions in the evening, of course, which means that if Lamb's not got that second lap time on the board, might be a sitting duck for those behind. We'll see what Zach Smith does out of the final corner. Russell's done with the qualifying session. 3 tenths up, we're being told that Zach Smith is out towards the line, could improve up to 3rd and does improve into 3rd position. 3/4 of a second off a pole. Matthew Lamb, I think, is still going for it on the 3rd timed lap.
A decent improvement there from Zach Smith, but Matthew Lamb is learning to reciprocate a 10th up currently, so that places him just behind Zach Smith. Needs to find a little bit more pace in this last part. A lot of cars out on track here. Matthew Lamb, the leader of that gaggle of cars there. You have Corey Sweet just behind in that Aston Martin. So these drivers will be pushing each other. This will be most likely the last lap that Matthew Lamb will set, unless he has another one in hand when he crosses the line. Corey Sweet will have benefited potentially a little bit there from a slipstream behind Matthew Lamb, but it is this driver who we are chasing here. Can he get himself onto into P3? Can Corey Sweet find his way onto the second row of the grid? Let's see then as we come through the last set of corners. The left-hander then, Matthew Lamb in that number 15 in that beautiful red car. It stayed on track. It's a hard thing for a red car to do, but as we come through that final right-hander, straight away as we go across, it looks like 2 tenths up for Matthew Lamb. Where will he cross the line? And it will be just shy of Zach Smith. Corey Sweet behind, cross the line, does not improve, but that is so close again between Zach Smith and Matt Lamb. These two drivers have been pushing each other for that 3rd spot on the grid, and it is again going to be a tale of a couple of hundredths of a second.
Yeah, very, very tight indeed. Once again, a few lap times still to come in, though. Ashlin Reynolds, who got inside the top 10 late in the previous qualifying session after not setting a time. I think they've set a time a bit earlier on the session, 1.9 seconds off of the pole. Still would expect a potential move, just 4 tenths required to move inside that top 10 with Weston and Jake Baldwin down the back end of that. Some tight margins out on the circuit, though. We'll see Ashlin Reynolds out through the final sector. The pole position, the 52.7 being set from Boquida, 4 tenths back to Hoolihan, 3 tenths back to Smith, and then just 100th back to Matthew Lamb. Out of the final corner, is Ashlin Reynolds going to improve at all from 16th position at the moment? Let's see as they cross the line. At the moment in 16th, bang, big improvement, up in a 6th place. Super lap time once again on the final lap. Qualifying superstar, got to be said.
That was a bit familiar, wasn't it? Ashlin Reynolds being towards the end of the grid, finding a lap on the last set of runs to push herself right up to that top 5, top 6. As James Pierre-Reid, the last driver, it seems, or one of the last drivers across the line. Where will he place? And we'll find out. 14th did not improve.
Bit of a shame there, but either way, Boquida with the pressure on once again, and we'll see with that 52.777 if there's going to be any pressure from behind. In the previous race, got to be said, did say as well in the interview, Boquida didn't have a great launch comparatively to Ryan Hoolihan, who will be starting on the front row once again in the same order they were in the previous race. Do you think Hoolihan's going to try and send it? There is history between the two, obviously ex-teammates and whatnot. Is there going to be that big send around the outside from Hooli?
I think when there's a trip to France on the line, that you will do whatever it takes to find your way past the driver that stands between you and that plane ticket. I've been in that situation before. Oh, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I've been to France and I found it quite nice. But there's not a lot to complain about. But I mean, look, this is going to be an interesting race. If Boquida can get that first lap clean and away, I think it's going to go to her pretty easily. But Ryan Hoolihan, I've seen stuff in the past, man. That guy can make moves.
Oh, I've also been to France a few times. I do like myself a bit of France, especially the south of France. It's so pretty. But we'll have to wait and see whether there's going to be any switches. And like I say, if there's someone to make that move, Hoolihan would be that driver. Got to really throw it in, though. That's the problem for Hoolihan. Needs to copy-paste that start. Needs to get that start just right. Reacted so well in the previous race.
Yeah, that was a really good reaction there from Ryan Hoolihan. Did not get really aggressive around the outside there. It is one of those tracks where you can afford to get a bit more aggressive because there is so much runoff. So if you don't find the space left for you on the outside, you can kind of just do a cheeky little turn in there.
Well, let's see our grid. Boquida and Hoolihan, a familiar front row. We'll start on the front row once again. Zach Smith and Lamb, 3rd and 4th. With Sweet starting from that 5th spot. See if Zach Smith, by the way, gets through the pit lane sequence without having a really extended stop from 3rd, and see what they can do through the race. Ashlin Reynolds starting higher than the previous race after yet another late qualifying super lap up towards 6th position. Russell starts from 7th with Floyd, Hunter and Weston rounding out the top 10. A late race penalty for Jake Baldwin. Puts him in, put him down the order from 12th to 13th in the previous race. We'll start this one, though, from 11th. See if he can work his way forward from there before we get to Pignata. Aaron Giuntini starts from 13th with Reid, Van Vliet, Noble, Matthew Giuntini and Rose rounding out our grid order. We had a little bit of diciness in the first corner of the previous race. Will we get the same?
I think pressure's on now. You know how many points you need to make in order to find your way forward. You know if you're towards the back of the pack that you really have to send it because you gotta hope for something to go wrong at the front. You need to hope for something to go gloriously right for you further at the back. But you can see that is the titular front row. Ryan Hoolihan, Philippa Boquida, they will be the two drivers going side by side into turn 1, and it will be a blockbuster battle to see who comes out at the end of that.
Kind of got to be a bit of a block pass, really, going into that you go around the outside of the first corner, you kind of really got to send it in so you're on the apex for the second, and kind of almost like I say block pass, you kind of got to be there and stop the cutback. It's not an easy one, but Hoolihan's the driver to do it, surely.
Yeah, it's all to play for here. Two McLarens, so they will be in evenly matched machinery. Zachary Smith could try and play a little bit of trouble to the drivers ahead on the back straight. We've seen that Aston Martin be super quick, but really it is going to be down to the reactions across the line and the reactions of the drivers as they head into that corner.
Yeah, it has to remain there when we get onto the Mistral straight, though. That's the important bit. And through the first complex of corners, that can be a little bit tricky. We'll get ready for the second race. And once again, Motorsport Australia looking for one driver to head to the FIA Motorsport Games next month. Which driver is it going to be? The winner of this event will be that driver. Boquida holds the top spot on the points. Ryan Hoolihan looking to try and maybe rob that one as we go racing once again at the virtual Paul Ricard. This time, great starts from the front row once again, but it is a better start once more from Ryan Hoolihan, who has to send it in around the outside of the first corner, but Boquida with the inside line takes the apex, takes the lead, and will try and shoot off into the distance. The slow start from Matthew Lamb as well drops him back into the clutches, and look at that, the Aston Martin of Zach Smith is charging, looks to the inside to go and grab second position, doesn't do so on Ryan Hoolihan, but is right in the pressure position to try and force something in the mid-straight straight, and it's around Ryan Hoolihan. It's now almost guaranteed that Boquida's got this, has run away after that mistake from Smith.
Yeah, that is just coming together. That's exactly what you didn't want to see there for Ryan Hoolihan, who had a decent start, it had to be said, but didn't throw it hard enough into the first corner. Found himself back behind Boquida under pressure from Zach Smith, and then Zach Smith thought about a little move up the inside, thought about it a little bit too hard there, and you can see the cogs turning as he went to the side of that McLaren there. We'll flip it back with Aaron Giuntini there for the Audi there, and you have the Honda of Pierre Reid behind, who's potentially going to try and find a move through the right-hander then. It is all to play for these opening laps where you can find all the positions there. Pierre not side by side. Pignata up ahead on Hoolihan. Those two are battling away. Hoolihan trying to make his move back up the inside of Matthew Pignata. Will he be able to make it happen? Pignata does work there. Giuntini looks about the inside. Can he make his way past as well? Hoolihan finds his way back past Pignata. Giuntini thought about it, didn't find it right there. And now it's going to be Daniel Hunter, who is next obstacle for Hoolihan to overtake. Let's see how this forms up now. We have, who is that? That's Jake Baldwin just ahead. And around the outside, Daniel Hunter thinks about it, sends it up the inside then. And that is a good move there for Ryan Hoolihan, who continues to find ways up the field. And pit lane there for Hoolihan, for Hunter. Pignata thought about it there, ducked back out. And that is going to be then Ryan Hoolihan doing the same thing he did in the last race then, taking that early pit stop and just hoping that the clean air is enough. But Boquida has that massive advantage after that first lap coming together.
Yeah, that was important for Hoolihan. I was expecting it. Obviously trying to get out of this traffic. Knows he's got the pace to try and jump all of them from the pit lane and grab back over second position, but still has to get past Zach Smith. Also might take a bit of that damage repair, so might have a bit of a longer stop here. Well, Ryan Hoolihan will have to watch out for that one as we focus on the battle now for third. Sweet Reynolds and then Floyd as well. So Ashlin Reynolds doing a good job. Again, fourth position at the moment on the roads. We'll see a replay of that move. You can see here, this is Hoolihan. Watch out for that Aston Martin of Zach Smith. Gets to the inside as they run out of the second corner. I could commentate this in slow motion if you really want me to, but as he gets to the inside, it was the run down towards that second corner. Kind of wasn't alongside enough to demand any sort of track position. And when he sent it in, it was a little bit, at least from when we saw it live, it was a little bit too aggressive for me.
Yeah, you can see there that Hoolihan got on the brakes a little bit later. They compromised the second part of this corner there. He was on the back of Boquida, but you can see that Zach Smith just had a massive run on it there. And it did look like he had a small chance of move, but under braking there, it just wasn't really the space, wasn't really the preordained intention there. And that is a spin that sent Hoolihan back. Ben Floyd is who we are on board with now. And just ahead of Floyd will be Ashlin Reynolds, who a good start up in the P4 from P6. So we'll see where that all comes together once the pit stops play through. Zach Smith this time around does not seem to be taking a longer pit stop, as Ashlin Reynolds does come into the pits now. So I'd expect Ashlin Reynolds to almost come out between Zach Smith and Ryan Hoolihan.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a penalty for Zach Smith, potentially. I don't want to speak on behalf of race control, so they will make their own decision because they're big boys behind the scenes. Russell also might have a little bit of that. Also, as going through the first complex corners, like I say, it was a little bit dicey. It was dicey in the first race, it was dicey in this one as well. Speaking of Russell, who's under pressure a little bit from Reid, but Russell's the one dishing out the pressure at the moment on Weston, who's currently running in 6th position as they dice their way through that second corner again. The sun's setting, it's 8 o'clock local time. There is a 5-second penalty dished out to Russell, saying that he was under investigation over incident in the first section of the track, and getting a 5-second time penalty for his efforts.
Yeah, so that's again going to cause some issues there for Russell. There will be a little bit of reprieve in the fact that they haven't taken the pit stop yet, so they can shuffle it out through the pit stop and then fight their way back up the field. But then we have, a little bit of stuff to happen there. Russell ahead in that Aston Martin, looking on a move there on Matthew Weston. Through to right-hander they go, finds the move pretty early there, has to be said. So that is good then for number 6, trying to open up a little bit of a gap behind. Weston will come under pressure from Reed shortly, it seems. A little bit of slipping back happening there. But yeah, it's going to come down to Russell now trying to push as hard as they can in order to find their way as far forward before the pit stops.
Yeah, let's see how that's going to unfold. And if you've got that 5-second time penalty, do you kind of does that change your mindset on when you take that pit stop, or do you just kind of almost ignore it?
I think if you're in clear air, you ignore it. As soon as you start losing time to a driver ahead, you take the pit stop, you take the L, because you know that you're going to have to recover some time later down the line anyway, so you may as well try something a bit different.
We did see in the previous race, though, the 5-second time penalty that it was Sweet, wasn't it, who had the 5-second time penalty, who then went longer and longer and longer, and then came out directly behind Floyd, and it was like, oh right, fair enough. And it's kind of that kind of mindset as well, is that sometimes, it's a hard one. This is where practice is where you look at the absolute best in Australian sim racing here that we have ahead of us. That maybe they know what they're doing better than we do, which is not hard. Let's be honest, as we'll see. No one else is going to bite for the pit lane other than Weston on this lap. So I think again it's going to be a tale of two halves. I think quite a few drivers will pit in the early stages of this race, and then everyone else will wait for a fair while. Hoolihan already back on the charge because he's right on the rear end of Reynolds, I believe, with a repaired car also, is trying to move up at least to the head of the field that have pitted already.
Yeah, so this is what I was talking about towards the end of the previous race. If you're Ashlin Reynolds, you're thinking, okay, there are drivers that haven't pitted yet. There are a lot of drivers around that I'm not quite sure what their pace is. I know Hoolihan's fast. Let's not fight too hard. As we can see there, who is that? That's Russell, who's gone wide there with the 5-second penalty. So Pierre Reed up the inside, then through that long right-hander. They're side by side, and it's going to be Russell with a better run out the exit, running wide again. And Reed finds their way back past, or not only back past, sorry, he's passed both now Giuntini and Russell. So that's some good moves there happening from James Pierre. Russell will come the pressure from Giuntini after that mistake in the Audi further behind, as Pierre Reed here, leading that train now, trying to find their way forward a little bit to Jake Baldwin. And that was a little bit close there between Russell and Russell and Reed. And now Russell comes into the pits, that frees Giuntini to go chase after Reed.
And you can see a 15-second time penalty to car 25. That was, surprisingly enough, for contact between the 25 and the 999. 999 being this driver here, Ryan Hoolihan. That was for the contact we saw in the first lap. And there is I thought they were in different classes then, how fast Ryan Hoolihan got past Ashlin Reynolds then. That was absolutely ridiculous, the speed that Hoolihan got past Reynolds. Reynolds now, though, with the pressure on their rear, because Hunter is there looking, hunting, some might say, for the extra position. But Hoolihan up one. Next up for him is the car that made contact with him earlier on in the race. So a little bit of previous between the two of them.
Yeah, just a little bit of tension there in the air, but that goes back to what I was saying there with Hoolihan. I think Ashlin Reynolds realized that, this driver has been at the front of the field. I'm going to slot him behind, maintain that slipstream as long as possible, because I see that Hunter is right behind. I see he's on the hunt. I want to make sure that I have the slipstream to protect myself as well. And that seems to be the case coming into this back straight here. That Audi does have decent pace, but we've seen how good those McLarens are as well. So being in that slipstream will really advantage Reynolds, and I don't see Reynolds challenging Hoolihan too hard in the back of straight. But, yeah. I mean, I could be wrong.
No, I agree. If I'm Reynolds, I mean, for this point, I would actually be lifting out of it to kind of allow Hoolihan to kind of get on with it a little bit. But clearly, the Audi R8 that Reynolds is driving is plenty fast enough in a straight line. Looks to the outside, coming up towards Scene, and tries to send it in. But that is going to open up the door, and Reynolds is going to lose out to Hunter. Opportunistic, and that is why I was saying maybe lift out of it, maybe just stay behind the McLaren, maybe just keep hold of the slipstream. It's not a major issue at this point in the race, but still, that might have been a bit of a mistake after the first hole, which I thought was quite smart.
I think the issue there was potentially that Ashlin Reynolds had so much extra speed, and you could see that there was so much extra speed from Hunter there in the back from the slipstream that they had to try something, because otherwise Hunter was just going to get past, you know. So Elliot maybe can find the same roles reversed at the end of the next straight potentially, but Hoolihan will be continuing to open that gap a bit, and it will be up to Reynolds to try and capitalize and get past back Hunter.
Yeah, and I think there is potentially the pace in the tank, especially with the straight line speed that we just saw there from Reynolds. I mean, no fixed setup, so everyone's doing their own thing on setup, and so if you have it, even if you have the fastest car in a straight line, set up with high downforce, you're going to be slow in a straight line, right? That's just how it is. You can, and so Reynolds might be running a slightly thinner rear wing on that Audi R8 to drag them into contention against the McLarens. For these two behind, though, you know how fast Hoolihan is. You know how big the slipstream is on the Mistral straight. Don't fight it. Just stay behind the car and kind of use that car to pull you along and drag you into fights later on. That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, it's all about that race IQ that you hear so much about in sim racing and real racing. You know, you have to try and think about the best way to maximize that situation, and it has to almost come instinctively to you. Know, you're stuck behind Hunter in that number 3 McLaren. You're thinking, okay, there's 18 minutes left to go. I can save a little bit of fuel now. I can save a little bit of tires now, get the slipstream from both these drivers, and then towards the end of the race, you know, Hoolihan's not slow on pace. If it was somebody towards the back of the grid, sure, go for the move. But with Ryan Hoolihan ahead of you, you want to try and just do a little bit of saving here so that you have more energy, more tires to attack at the end of the race.
Well, I think my theory on how the race is going to be split in half by the pit stops and people are going to either pit early or late is completely out the window as Matthew Giuntini comes into the pit lane, approaching the halfway point of the race. They've been kind of consistently pitting, not all coming in one go at the start and one go at the end. Everyone's kind of been having their own little chance of like, oh, it's my turn in pit lane now. So, fair enough. Matthew Giuntini, the next one to offer up his car to the services of the virtual mechanics, and so it's just the 6 drivers yet to stop: Boquida, Lamb, Sweet, Floyd, Baldwin and Rose. There is your race leader once again into the setting sun here at the virtual Paul Ricard. Different planet. Paul Ricard, Philippa Boquida just running away.
Just running away. There's just so much pace between Boquida and Lamb, 6.7 seconds, which was the gap at the end of the race in the previous lap, or previous round rather, between Boquida and Hoolihan. So you could almost see that double towards the end of this race. Boquida has been putting on a stellar show, it has to be said, for that RHG. And, you know, I mean, Romain Grosjean, he's French. Maybe there's a little bit of tips going on here, you know?
Maybe he's technically Swiss. We won't talk about that. It's fine. Don't worry. I mean, obviously, Romain Grosjean's very. We've said this before with like quite a few teams in sim racing and stuff where they have the name of a great driver or whatever in motorsport, and that driver isn't hands on with the team. You know, they've kind of like just offered up the name and gone, right, okay, we'll back off from it. There are a few exceptions to that. Obviously, you've got Team Redline with Max Verstappen, who is actually very hands-on with the team. You've got, of course, Brabham Esports with David Brabham, who's kind of very hands-on as well. You know, trying to really push the team forward and is keeping up to eyes what the team's doing. And it's the same with RHG as well. Romain Grosjean is really focused on the team, is hanging out with the team quite a lot, is genuinely the team manager. He's not just there as a brand ambassador, and I really respect that as we look back to Aaron Giuntini trying to defend from the Honda NSX he's just got through of Reed.
Yeah, so Reed taking that pit stop, did see him filter out a little bit behind Pignata there. Giuntini has come and found the way back ahead. Reed behind, and then Giuntini behind. So again, Reed finding himself in a bit of a sandwich here. You know, it's Giuntini bread all over again. But for the right-hander, it's a left-hander rather, the second of the Giuntinis thinks about a move there. Reed shuffles back on the inside. So I think I'm gonna call a shot here. I think I'm gonna move it from a Rayton roll from the Kerfuffle Cup to a Reed roll. You know, he's just been sandwiched today.
But it's not a Reed roll though, is it? It's a Giuntini roll.
No, it's you name the sandwich after the filling, mister.
Exactly. Oh right, yeah, no, sorry. Yeah,
I got you.
Oh no. Oh no, that's it. That was my thing. No, I'll allow that. I will allow that.
Well, how's the turntable?
It's early in the morning. It's early in the morning, but it's fine. No, I'll allow that. Wow, I'm just so ready for other people to be so wrong with it all the time that I was just ready to jump on there, and I'm never going to commentate with you again. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, but then again, it's no. I can't win on that one. We're going to back out of it. We're going to move on, and we're going to focus back on the race at hand. I have rosy cheeks on my end as well. Giuntini either side. Aaron ahead of Matthew with Reed in the middle. The filling in that sandwich. All right.
Well, they got the same liveries as well. I quite like that, you know. Okay, I'm going to take that one. We're going to move forward from there. I'm sure you'll find a reason to come back at me at some other point, you know. Let's come for the left-hander. For the left-hander, then we have Matthew Giuntini for A&M Racing as they come through the left-hander the last little part of this lap here. And Reed has opened up a bit of a gap now to Matthew Giuntini, as has the Giuntini ahead. So a little bit of a train developing here now.
Yes, indeed, and I am sure I understand that chat is ripping into me right now. I will take the L on that one, and I will admit my mistake. We can't all be perfect, like Kean Butler, and so now I will be listening in very closely. But still, as we head back up the order, Pignata and Baldwin, well, there's previous between these two in the last race, of course. The time penalty being dished out to Jake Baldwin after contact on the last lap of the race. Will they be doing that in this one? We have to hope not.
Hope not. And I'm just going to throw you a line here, Lewis. If I'm perfect, which I know I'm not, but if I'm perfect, it's because you're rubbing off on me here. So, you know, it's working out. It's working out.
Well, that's so sweet.
There we go. Pretty left. It's so Corey sweet, actually.
I mean that's terrible, but I like it. But also, I will say that's just you trying to make me not focus on any mistakes in the future. So that's fine. We'll keep our eyes on this race, like you're saying, with, to be honest, to bring up Corey Sweet under a bit of pressure from Floyd at the moment in third position. The top five still yet to make that pit stop. And all of these are likely to gain a position at the end of the race as well, because, of course, the 15-second time penalty going the way of Zach Smith is presently in 6th spot. That should become second after everyone's been into the pit lane. But the 15-second time penalty that Zach Smith will get will be added post-race, which means that Smith's going to be dropping back quite a few at the drop of the checkered flag.
Yeah, and Zach Smith, we saw, had decent pace in qualifying, so Ryan Hoolihan not making as much of an impression as we thought he might early stages in the pit window. We are now towards the final third of the race. You can see James Pierre Reed with Giuntini behind, a big lunge there, and it's contact, and all three of them go around. All three of them happen there. That all just dissolved. So that was a big lunge there from Aaron Giuntini. Matthew Giuntini found, I don't know how he found his way into it, but he found his way into it, and then Jean-Pierre Reed just found out that wasn't the place to be and got sandwiched again.
That was rough, and Aaron Giuntini is going to lose out potentially here to Noble, who's trying to get around the outside, going through the first corner, inside for the second. They're very close, going to be contact again as the McLaren's trying to get his way through. The two of those are going to slow down, though. We're going to go 3 wide. This one is definitely not going to work. Russell's going to get involved as well, side by side. Russell sent it in, almost chopped over the nose from Aaron Giuntini. That was so close. Reed joins the battle as well, a 4-way fight for what is 14th on the road at the moment. It's so tight, and a super wide run there as well from Noble.
Holy hooligans, Batman. That was a great one there. 3 wide in that corner was crazy through there. And we saw, get the clean somehow. Aaron Giuntini judged that corner entry, corner exit brilliantly, but behind now. Aaron Giuntini has Russell, you have Noble, you have Reed. It's a 4-car train. These guys are going to get a mega slipstream in that corner. We're going to see them 3 wide again. You can see there, Russell pulls out the slipstream. Noble thinking about it, but has Reed pull out. And they are going 2x2, has to find a way in there, 4 wide, going to that corner there. This cannot work. Surely Noble finds a way through around the outside. That is Russell, who's still there. Noble gains 2 positions in the corner there. Russell floats back behind, looks back at the inside, gets a switchback. There's a slide there from Reed. There's still 2 wide. Noble and Russell, they're fighting the way. The McLaren versus the Aston Martin nudges him back towards the outside of the corner there. Through the inside, the switchback cannot work again there for Russell. That was incredible stuff there. Noble gets it there. Russell finds himself in position down, but 2 positions gained there for Noble. Giuntini slots back a little bit further behind, and Reed finds his way up as well. What an exchange there.
Well, hot damn, I'm glad you took that and not me. The 4-way fight coming into that corner. When it was 4 wide, I was expecting everyone to be backwards by the time I left that corner. Thankfully not. And what a stunning display. Obviously, Aaron Giuntini having a car which has got a lot of damage on the front end and thus is slower in a straight line at the moment. There's a bit of a moment as well behind because Reed's going to miss the corner. Nearly got into the rear end to Paul Russell that we're just looking at now. And Giuntini is going to move up a spot up now into 16th. That NSX down 1. A bit of a shame as the sun is blinding them as they head down towards this the end of the first sector. But once they get onto the Mistral straight, once they get up towards Scene, no problem when it comes to visibility there. But what a big moment to see 4 wide on that straight. Absolutely incredible. And not only that, but to see 4 wide where all 4 come out of it, that is breathtaking.
That is stellar racecraft. That is stellar racing. We went to 3 wide. They thought, you know what, we can do one better. 4 wide. Let's make that happen. And they made it happen. There's a bit of a gap now spreading out between the 2. Noble leads to Train. Russell a little bit further behind. 5/10 of a second separates. But wow, I'm still recovering my breath here a little bit because that was a long one to commentate at top pitch.
I don't blame you. I've had that before on a race, but when you're so invested in what's going on, you're shouting a bit, and like there comes a point at the end of the battle, and I was on solo comms on this race, and I nearly passed out. Genuinely, I was like, I actually can't breathe. But that's the joys of what these drivers put us through when it comes to the excitement. We'll take another look at the incident. I mean, 3 into that corner most certainly doesn't work. Ooh. That was a bad rejoin. Got to be said, if I'm Paul Russell, I'm not happy at that rejoin getting straight onto the power. But 3 into that corner of all corners, you're asking for trouble. Really are.
Yeah, that was a bit of a clumsy exchange there between the 3 drivers. The rejoin, I'd almost say that's a slam dunk. You need to be a bit more aware, cognizant of what's happening on track there, and that, you know, if whenever something like that didn't need to happen compromises another driver's race, that's almost always a penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a little bit going on with some of the drivers that will be receiving a touch from that. Of course, remember, race control can see this from all angles. They can pick apart everything, all the details, all the fine margins, all the inputs. They can see everything to kind of work out who's really at fault, and the adjudication behind the scenes will go through every little detail of that to make sure that it's a fair penalty and a consistent penalty based on the rule set that we've got that makes sense for everyone. And I've always said before, you've got to respect the word of race control. With just 7 minutes left to go, had a fair share of drama over the evening's proceedings, and still 5 people yet to stop. Sweet and Floyd find themselves for the 2nd consecutive race very close, as Giuntini going to lose out of position here because the straight line speed of that Audi R8 with a damaged front is just not enough at the moment, and that was pretty easy for Reed to get through.
Yeah, breezed past there, super easy there for Reed. There was a little bit of a thought up ahead, you can see there for Baldwin. There's an incident now, 15-second time penalty awarded to car 31 between car 33, car 2 and car 31. So that's 333, that's Giuntini. That's going to be that incident there, that rejoin. Yeah, slam dunk, like we said.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll see on that one. But as I say, race control very busy as we focus on this race. The winner for this event, we will remind you that the victor of this qualifies their way for the 2022 FIA Motorsport Games and gets to represent Australia at the real Paul Ricard. Obviously, they'll be racing on Sims, but still, at the real Paul Ricard. They'll be all going out there and whatnot. Going to be a fantastic event as Paul Russell tries to get to the inside of Mitchell Noble, coming down into 14th position, and now goes for the up and under. A little bit too deep there for the McLaren, and now I think the Aston Martin of Paul Russell might just get alongside before they get into this second complex, but nope, the big send around the outside, brakes looking superb at the moment on that McLaren. We saw an incident coming into this corner on the very first lap of the race, but yeah, not a bad prize, is it? To be fair, the work's only half done when you win this prize. You then have to represent the entire country at the FIA Motorsport Games. So, each their own on that.
Yeah, it's a big country. Not as many people as other countries, but you know, go too wide. Pignata around the outside of Baldwin. Where have we seen this before? I feel like we've seen this before. Around the outside we go with Pignata again. Slots back in behind Jake Baldwin. And 3 wide again. Here we go. We got Russell. We got Reed. We've got Noble. Russell thinks better of it. Backs out this time. Reed stopped the inside. He's going to potentially compromise. Oh, and he backs out so much. But Russell thought he would stick with it. So he really went defensive there against Russell as opposed to offensive on Noble. And I feel like in terms of survivability, that was the right move. But you can see there the rear end of Reed getting a little bit skittish there. You have Russell who's still on the back end. And that McLaren hasn't seemed to be the fastest car on the straights. It keeps getting a little bit drawn in now. So I almost expect we've got, what, 2 laps left, 3 laps left? We're going to see these drivers in an explosive way.
That Honda is rapid in a straight line. I think that I will say I think these cars do have damage. We know that Paul Russell received a bit of damage on the front end after the rejoin and whatnot. I think there is a bit of damage in this battle, and of course Reed would have a fair share in all of that as well. But still, I think, you know, the damage is slightly differing between each car depending on where they've been hit and whatnot, and that's kind of affected this battle in quite an interesting way. Actually, 2 minutes and 40 seconds left of the pit window sequence. Of course, remember the reason why it's only 28 minutes the pit window sequence in a 30-minute race is to stop them from coming in on the final lap of the races. James Pierre Reed getting back to the inside and now sending it down the inside of Mitchell Noble, going through the corner, now picks up what is 14th position on the road as Philippa Boquida, a couple of laps in the end, comes into the pit lane.
Yeah, so Boquida taking that mandatory pit stop, and the last lap where they really could have done it. Paul Russell there, you can see Boquida, where will they filter out? Surely ahead of Zach Smith, who has a 15-second time penalty still to be applied. Ryan Hoolihan a little bit further back. And down the main straight, we're on board with Paul Russell. What will happen here? Noble trying to pull in a little bit on Reed. That Honda is fast though. It's not, Noble's not making the impression that the other drivers were able to make on him when they were the last time around. So it looks like a bit of a procession into the corner. No moves to be made. A little bit of a look by Noble, but I feel like it's more defensive than offensive against Russell as Reed now gets a 15-second time penalty for car number 31. So that is, was that the...
That was for the 3 wide bit in the final corner.
Yes.
The 5-second time penalty to Aaron Giuntini is for the rejoin, as there's the look to the inside once again from Russell, trying to get past Noble. Very dicey. 3 time penalties to be added, 2 of them 15 seconds, 1 of them 10-second penalty. Post-race, they will be applied.
Yeah, so that's really just to show just how wide these elbows have gotten. Russell behind Noble now. It's the penultimate lap. They got to try and find a way past. Got to try and make something happen. We've seen that Aston Martin be quick in the fast straights. We've seen that Honda that is now trying to gap a second. I don't think there's no way they can make 15 seconds of a gap. So Reed almost going to, almost guaranteed to finish in last. The only solace is that Giuntini has a 10-second penalty. So if he can pull out a 5-second gap, he can finish second or last. But there you can see in the corner of your screen, it's Philippa Boquida coming through that last sector into the long right-hander, has done everything that they've needed to do today. You haven't seen them much on the screen today because they've been doing a bit of a boring race. It's not always the most interesting thing to watch someone who's so consistent, so fast, able to get pole position, the fastest lap in both races in that last sector. Philippa Boquida has done brilliantly today. 20 points in both rounds. That comes to a total of 40 points there, which means that Boquida, when they cross the line, as long as everything works out on these final corners, through the left-hander, through the right-hander, will be going to France to represent Australia in the International FIA Motorsport Games. Philippa Boquida crosses the line to take victory. Next lap.
Nice one. That one, you were building up to it, and I was like, nope. I didn't want to cut across you because you were so in the rhythm. I didn't know if you were building up onto the final lap, but no, Boquida is in control right now, and like I say, just doesn't no mistakes really throughout the day. It's been what will be an hour of perfect driving. If you include qualifying, even more so than that. It's quite tight for the battle for second. Also, but yeah, I don't think anyone's getting remotely close to Philippa Boquida today. Different planet, different. Basically, almost racing on the real place. It's that fast.
There you go. Your cheeks got rosy at one point. Mine are now rosy.
I've done that before more than once.
We have Math Noble has a drive-through penalty, so almost certainly has to duck into the pits to serve that this lap as we go white flag then. So drive-through penalty for Noble, 15-second penalty for Reed, 10-second penalty for Giuntini. The battle, forming a bit now, but there we go. This time around, I'll do it properly. We have Philippa Boquida coming through that final corner. R8G have put their faith in this driver. This driver has delivered on the French circuit. Through that long right-hander, you see the beauty that is that McLaren, the beauty that is the pace that has been unleashed on track today. Like I said, pole position in both races, fastest lap in both races, and it is going to be a win in race 1 through that final corner. As we get towards it, will it be a win in race 2? Almost certainly, barring some catastrophe through that left-hander then into the final right-hander. This time around, I got it right. This time around, the clock is at 0. Race 2 goes to Philippa Boquida, and Philippa Boquida will be going to Circuit Paul Ricard to represent Australia in the FIA Motorsport Games this lap around.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone can deny that. Question marks as to whether Andrew O'Hara would have been able to take the challenge. Doesn't matter though, on the day, Boquida's done the work, and an excellent job it has been. Lamb crosses the line in second. Hoolihan grabs third. Zach Smith in fourth with a 15-second time penalty. Will lose positions to all this lot as well. Will drop right the way down the order. Tight battles back as well. Russell's going to cross the line in 16th, and yet still is going to get moved forward 2 positions because Reed has a 15-second time penalty. Noble has a drive-through, I think, for track limit excursions and gains that spot anyway before they get round into the final corner, which Noble's going to send one straight back down the inside. So gains it at least for the briefest margin, and yet still it means not anything major because the penalties are still going to dish it back to Paul Russell. Quite a lot of post-race penalties, must be said. A little bit of a dicier second race. But Boquida is the driver we're focused on. Not a single mistake all day. What a drive.
Yeah, it really was. Matt Lamb doing a great job to get P2 there, capitalizing on that coming together in the first lap there. Ryan Hoolihan, a good recovery drive to P3, but wasn't able to do what he needed to do today, and it has to be said, Boquida had a commanding race once again, and a commanding event overall.
Yeah, we're only focused on one driver from this. Only one winner goes through. We'll take the trip over to the south of France, and that will be Philippa Boquida. And I mean, if I'm some of the other competitors, obviously, other motorsport organisations have picked their driver through various ways, whether it's through a selection process, whether it's through a qualifier like this, whether it's through choice. There's a lot of different options that have gone that way. If I'm one of those other drivers that's been picked, I'm looking at Philippa Boquida and thinking, okay, I'm a little concerned now. That's fair enough. We'll catch up with Philippa Boquida now, by the way, because after winning the first race and now winning the second race, we did say we'd catch up with you potentially after that first race. That one looks even more dominant. It was basically all sorted by the end of the second sector. Talk through your mindset at that point.
To be honest, I was a bit disappointed for Hooli that he got taken out, but I just had to keep focused on what I was doing, and now we're sitting here. So yeah, mindset for that, my mind went blank.
Let's talk about the future then. Let's talk about moving forward. Let's talk about going to Paul Ricard racing in a live event type scenario. Have you done anything of that scale and that kind of style before?
I haven't done racing as such in an offline setting, but I have done a lot of Tekken in like big tournaments and stuff before I came to sim racing, so I've kind of got an idea of how it feels to be in a offline event. But as for racing and at a track, I'm a bit I'm not really sure how to word it. A bit confused about what's going to happen. I'm not sure what to expect, so yeah.
Now, you get to represent your country as well, which I think is a big thing. Not too many people ever really get to represent their country in a big event, whether it's in esports, whether it's in any form of other sport, wherever it is. To be able to represent your country, not just a team, not just yourself, but your country as well. That's a big deal, isn't it? It's a fair amount of pressure on your shoulders, but it's quite a relieving style of pressure, though.
Yeah, it kind of hasn't settled in as real yet, so I don't really have much words for it. I'm still a bit like, is this really happening?
Well, we'll let you settle down and take it in, because what a drive. You've done the work today, and a brilliant effort. Philippa Boquida, our winner today.
Thank you very much.
Wow, Kim, what a day, and what a drive as well. Absolutely stunning from the very start to the very end.
Yeah, and a very calm interview there from Philippa Boquida, but I know that when I qualified for my first land, it was such a flurry of emotion that came. You know, it took a couple of days to realize I'm going to France. I'm going to compete and represent, and that's exactly what's going through her head, and I'm sure she will do a brilliant job in France. Congratulations, Philippa Boquida, and just overall, great racing today.
Like I said, though, in that interview, the chance not to represent a team, but to represent a country, it's a big deal. It's a lot of pressure, but I mean, considering how fast Philippa Boquida is, Australia have a very, very good chance in that event. Being on a set of Corsa Competizione, being live. I mean, I don't know where it's going to go, but even then, I guess that's even more pressure because the expectation is there.
Yeah, it's always a bit of an interesting case. Australia only has a population of around 25, 26 million people. So the talent pool is a little bit smaller. So I feel like Australia has a chance to be overlooked at times, but Philippa Boquida comes in. She will be making a statement. She drives for RHG, so that means she already has the credit on her back. And I have to say, Tekken tournaments, she'll be coming in with a fighting spirit.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, again, what a day it has been. That kind of wraps us up here for the Motorsport Australia FIA Motorsport Games qualifier. We have our driver, we have our winner. It is Philippa Boquida. We'll have to wait and see how that one's going to unfold in just over a month's time when we get to the south of France. From us in the commentary booth, I've been Lewis McGlade. Kian Butler's been alongside. Michael Hamlet's been in our area, passed us all the information, and of course, Mike Yao bringing you the broadcast. Until next time, thank you very much for joining us. A very nice evening. Bye-bye.